Take a look at these covers. What do you think is wrong with them? They all look the same, and if they all look the same, then you automatically assume they are the same. Any other book with a different cover will seem unique to you, even if it still contains the same information as all these books. Now here's the problem. You see this book right here? This book is actually special. This is a best-selling book on Amazon, selling over 300 copies a month. But that's not what makes it special. What makes it special is the fact that this is Leonard's book, and he needs my help. Yesterday, Leonard contacted me saying, Barry, please help me. Our book is selling well, but I think the cover is holding it back. Can you help me? And I was like, sure, yeah, let's do it. So with this giant responsibility on my hands, there was no room for error. It was up for me to increase Leonard's book sales. And I know what you might be thinking. Why would the book cover affect the sales? Well, the answer is really simple. Let's say Leonard's book cover has a 0.5% click-through rate. This means for every 1,000 people that see the book in their search results, only 0.5% of them click. In other words, only 5 of them. Now, this book is selling 300 copies a month, so it's safe to say that people who click on the book are likely to buy it. Now, let's say for every 5 clicks, the book gets 1 sale. That sounds pretty good. But what happens when you create a unique cover which increases your click-through rate? If we can double the click-through rate to 1% just by changing the cover, then we can automatically double the sales. Because now for every 1,000 people that see the book in the search results, 10 of them click, which means 2 of them buy. So we can double the book sales just by doubling the click-through rate. But the opposite is also true. If the new book cover is not as good as the one Leonard currently has, then his click-through rate will drop. And if it drops, so will his sales. Everyone in the niche was publishing the same book cover. Black background, Excel logo in the middle, and a window break effect in the background. With the pressure on, it was time to open up Photoshop and start working. So if I wanted Leonard's click-through rate to increase, I would have to take a completely different approach to make sure the new book cover stands out from all the rest. So I downloaded a bunch of elements from stock websites and played around with it in Photoshop, just to get an idea of what I wanted to go for. I had a burst of ideas at the start, but realized that I was overcomplicating things. So I deleted everything and started again from scratch. Now I had one goal in mind with this cover. I wanted it to be simple and professional. Now in order to make this happen, I was going to have to take things one step at a time. When someone is searching for a book about Excel, what do they expect to see on the cover? Exactly, the Excel logo. Since this is the most important element of the cover, it also has to be the element that takes up the most amount of space. Now, I wasn't quite sure where the logo was going to end up, so I just left it in the corner until I knew what to do with it. Most of the books for the Excel niche have a black background, so I wanted Leonard's cover to stand out. I needed to do something different. A white background. Revolutionary, I know. But here's the problem with white backgrounds on book covers. They blend in with the Amazon background, and they look terrible because of it. But don't worry, I'm going to give you a quick tip to help you with this, with the Amazon page. Now, anytime I create a book with a white background, I have 3 options to help it create contrast with the Amazon page. The first one is texture. By adding little bits of texture or background elements in different colors, you can help bring out the edges of the book. The second one is having your background a shade of gray. Instead of making your background pure white, you can give it a slight shade of gray. It will still look white, but it won't be as white as the Amazon background. And number 3 is adding a border. Adding a colored border around your cover is the easiest way to make your book stand out, and it's exactly what I did with this book cover. I took the green color from the Excel logo and created a thin border around the edges of the cover. I also took a screenshot from the Excel program and added the cells as a background texture. Now the texture wasn't subtle enough, so I decreased the opacity to make it less obvious. Now, since the cover Leonard had was already working and making sales, I decided to extract all the text that he had and add it to the new cover as well. At this stage in the book cover process, it's very important to understand hierarchy and how it works. Hierarchy is basically how your eyes are going to travel throughout your book cover. The most simple way to explain it, if I show you a large piece of text, and then I show you a smaller piece of text, and then I show you an even smaller piece of text, 9 times out of 10, your eyes are going to look at the large text first, then the medium, and then the smaller text. Knowing this, I needed to make sure the most important words were the biggest words on the cover and the least important words were the smallest words on the cover. So someone who's searching for an Excel book, guess what word they're expecting to see on the cover? Excel, exactly. This is why it's so important to make it the largest word on the cover in order for people to read it first. Now I also chose a sans serif font which matches the style of the font in the Microsoft Office programs and also the font that they use on the logos. Now if you don't know the difference between serif and sans serif, serif has that little extra bits on the corner of the letters, sans serif doesn't. I then made the text for the year 2024 slightly smaller than the word Excel in order for it to be the second thing people read. Now it didn't quite fit in with the cover and looked a little bit out of place, which is why I decided to combine it with the green border that we had around the cover. Much better. Using the same font, I added the subtitle under the word Excel in a much smaller font to make sure this is the third thing people read. Now I noticed there was a lot of green on the cover, so since the subtitle had 2 parts, I made the first part green, which was the smaller part of the subtitle, and made the rest a shade of black. Finally, I added the author name on the bottom. This was the smallest piece of text with the thinnest this font on the cover in order to make sure that this is the last thing people read. At the end of the day, it's not the author name that's going to sell your book, which makes it the least important word on the cover. Now, since it's the least important text, the size needs to represent that.
Ooh.
Now, Leonard's cover had a badge showing off extra bonuses found inside the book. I was curious to see if anyone else had these badges, and yes, literally every single book had the same yellow badge with the red ribbon. Since I was going for a more minimalistic look, I couldn't use the same badge as everyone else. I had to do something a little bit different. So I found a sticker mock-up online and tried it out, but wasn't really happy with the results. I needed something different. So then I added a ribbon on the bottom right corner of the cover, and it was starting to look good, but I still wasn't quite sure what I wanted. I wanted to give the badge another try, but needed something different. I found a semicircle sticker with an effect that makes it look like it's wrapped around the object. I made some adjustments to it to fit the style of the cover, and I was actually kind of happy with the result. Since I wasn't going to use the corner ribbon to show off the bonuses, I used it to show off the audiobook that's inside the book. Now, there was one final piece of text that was left on the cover, and I had no idea where to place it. It looks like everything is already in its place, but after moving some things around, I realized that if I center everything, then I have a tiny bit of space below the Excel logo for that extra text. This piece of text is more important than the author name, but less important than the subtitle. To represent that, I made it bigger than the author name and used a thinner font. Now, the author name was getting a tiny bit too close to the border, so I decided to combine that with the border as well. And pow! The new book cover is finally done. But wait. We're not completely finished yet. We still got the back cover left and the spine, but the spine is really easy. It takes like 2 minutes. Okay, we'll start with the spine first, just to get it over with. But before we do that, we need to make sure we have the correct dimensions for the book. So all I need to do is search up the KDP cover calculator, fill in the options, and download the template. I then drag the template into Photoshop and decrease the opacity to 50%. This will let me see what's going on underneath that layer. Now I drag the new cover and position it correctly to match with the dimensions on the template. I then take the same green we used on the border and use it for the spine and back cover. I copy the subtitle and author name and place it neatly on the spine using the same font. The subtitle is green and black on the cover, but I made it white for the spine because it makes it easier to read. And finally, I always like to add an icon on a book's spine, so I searched for a white Excel logo and added that in. Looks good. Now it's time for the back cover. Now, the old cover barely had any text on the back cover, which is something that needed to change. I took the existing text and added it as a headline for the back cover. I couldn't quite get it to fit correctly, and my OCD was acting up, so I reworded the text slightly, used a variation of fonts, and finally made something I was happy with. Now, the problem was that there was a lot of empty space on the bottom that we needed to fill up, so I went onto Leonard's book listing, extracted some text from his book description, and placed it on the back cover. I played around with the font a little bit until I found something I was really happy with. Now, it's important for the back cover text to not only have a font that matches with the overall theme, but it also needs to be readable. Even though I added quite a bit of text from the description, there was still a lot of empty space left in the bottom. No one likes to read big blocks of text, which is why this time I took bullet points from the description and added these to the bottom. I made sure all the fonts matched and that the text was aligned correctly, and even added some cute little squares for bullet points. Now I wanted to create some separation from the text and the bullet point section, so I added a thin line to split the two. Finally, I added some extra details to the back cover by adding hand-drawn underlines to make the important bits stand out. And there we go. The complete cover is finished. We have a brand new cover, complete with a spine and back cover. Which cover do you prefer? The old one or the new one? And what would you have done differently?
Fight!
Let me know your thoughts down below.